It's Dancing with the Moms, a boogie boot camp of sorts for Educate Our State. It's a parents group that's pushing for improvement in public education. And I'm joined now by two women from Educate Our State. Both of them are moms with kids in public schools here in the Bay Area. Crystal Brown and Kalimah Salahuddin joining us today. Crystal, I want to start with you because you were here more than a year ago where we were talking about the problems with funding with schools. And here we are again in the same situation, perhaps even worse than we were before, with the governor now saying that if we don't have these tax increases, they're going to cut another $5 billion from a bare bones budget. Your reaction to when you see a lot of people say he's holding us hostage, your reaction?
You know, I mean, I think he does have our kids' best interest in mind, but he really has no option. But it's a huge part of the budget, and he wants to make sure that the budget's balanced. That's what the Californians have asked for. But the Californians really need to step up, and parents need to be right there at the table saying, not on our children's backs. We can't cut any more money out of our schools, and we need to make sure that they have the resources they need to learn. And it is frustrating. I think parents, they know what it means at their school. They can see the actual programs sliding away, whether it's PE, art, music, increased class size. They would feel handcuffed by these budgets year after year. They're very frustrated.
Right. I know when you first started Educate Our State, it really started off on a local level, that you started with another mom, and then all of a sudden there were groups and women like yourself that were doing the same thing. Tell me a little bit about how you guys got together and what's happening across the state in terms of moms with children and Educate Our State uniting to form one coalition.
Well, in 2008, things really started to slide in terms of funding, and parents would come together and we start fundraising, and then the fundraising wasn't enough. So, you know, at local level you hold rallies, we go to Sacramento, we had letter writing campaigns, we were doing all these things locally, and we realized the problem wasn't with our individual districts, but it was from the funding that was coming from Sacramento. But it's really hard to affect change, especially in my case because I live in Pacifica. It's a really small district to affect change in Sacramento on our own. So I started looking out on the internet and searching for, there had to be other parents just like me that were, you know, sick of selling cupcakes and the silent auctions, trying to hold together the funding with tape, essentially, trying to hold together the funding with tape and doing all this work just so that the schools can open and stay and just maintain at the same level every single year.
And I'll just add, there's a Kalimah in every city. And we've met so many, you know, traveling around from San Diego, Long Beach, Sacramento. Parents are very frustrated with the state of affairs, and they feel like now's the time to band together. And what's so exciting is it's actually happening.
Right, you're like 40,000 strong now.
40,000 strong in every major urban city.
And is the goal, because one of the things that's always been missing in this is you have a very strong teachers union, you have lawmakers, you have business interests, but it seems the people who have the most vested interest in children, which is us parents, and what's happening with our children have.
And it's our only special interest is our kids, right?
Exactly.
So
we seem to have the least amount of voice and vocal power when it comes.
And we need to take responsibility for that because we've been focusing on our own schools and our own school districts, and now it's time to cross district lines, which is what we've done and begun to do, and grow so that we are a powerful voice, so that when decisions are being made, we're at the table saying, no, that's not in the best interest of my kids. And by the way, you guys need to play nicely in the sandbox till we get a budget or a tax revenue measure that makes sense for all children in California.
So one other point is that there's a big part of our voice that we don't use, and that's the ballot box. I mean, 30% of parents vote. So when it comes to enacting laws or being able to voice our opinions on different subjects, we don't do that because we don't vote, especially locally. Parents usually only vote in federal, so the presidential elections, but most of our stake in this fight is in the local elections. So school board, local legislators, assembly members.
Parcel taxes.
Parcel taxes.
That's why November is so important this year.
Extremely
because
critical.
The Californians, parents and everyone else need to come and stand up and say, we support our children right now in November, and they can only do that really at the ballot box. So we need to be part of that conversation.
And so what you want to do now is one of the things I understand that one of your initiatives for this year as part of Educate Our State is that you're really going to be looking at the politicians, you're going to be looking at the ballot box, you're going to be looking at those measures, and much like the League of Women Voters does, come out with recommendations. Is that the goal?
That is a goal, and to take a look at what do these policies support our values as parents. If they are in the best interest of our kids, then we want to make sure that those lawmakers, those legislators, that we do support them in getting elected and being a part of the decision-making process.
So is that part of the becoming? Are you going to become a political PAC to do that, or how will that work out?
That's what we're looking at. That's what we're looking at. Yeah, absolutely.
And a lot of the confusion comes from, we vote on so many different things. It's extremely confusing. I know it's intimidating. I think that's one of the reasons why people don't vote. So we want to be the bridge to help people understand, you know, when you go in there, you have to make the most informed decisions, and we're here to help you make the decisions that will benefit our children's education.
And I have to say, this November is a perfect example of that, because as we were discussing with Jill just earlier, not only do we have the governor's tax proposals, but there are also 5 or 6 other tax proposals that have some sort of link to education or a tax. So I think it's very difficult to get mired and to figure out which one to vote for.
Right. And right now we're saying that cannot happen. We cannot have 6 different education revenue measures on the ballot and be successful. That the only losers will be our children. So we're really coming out in support of getting together, play nice in the sandbox. If everyone's end goal is to have an excellent education system for every child so that we can actually grow our economy that's dependent on educated society, then we need to have a ballot measure that supports that value.
So Educate Our State is taking what position then this November?
Well, as you know, many of them are still in the Attorney General's office, so we don't know what's going to happen and how many will be there. But our goal right now is to come out in public and say we need one measure that supports the needs of our children, that has revenue, that has some systemic change, that matches what needs to happen in our schools.
Okay, if someone wants to get involved with Educate Our State, what do we do?
Yes, there are many ways. We have our website, educateourstate.org. We have our Facebook page. If you search for Educate Our State and like us, you can stay up to date on news that's happening. We update that page quite often. We are looking for angry parents. We are looking for passionate parents. But I know a lot of parents feel angry and they don't know what to do with that. And we're here to, you know, we're a bridge, like I said before, to help channel that and use it for something positive.
When somebody comes up to you, Crystal, and says, how do we get out of this mess? How do we fix this? I mean, how do you answer that? Because you're so embroiled in the midst of this, and I think just in the year that over a year that you've been doing this, your education about the state of education has been very, very intense.
Well,
what is the fix?
Right, exactly. There's no silver bullet, and everyone will say that. But the reality is that there are other states and other countries that are teaching their children well. And we know that our kids come to school in the morning wanting to learn. That doesn't mean cutting days of school. That doesn't mean putting more kids in the same classrooms that we've had. That doesn't mean having schools that have no access to technology or losing PE. So we know what we shouldn't be doing and what we can do. And so we believe that really needs to be a combination of more resources and that the resources are spent well. And there are tons of policy papers from, you know, right up the road at Stanford and in Berkeley that are very clear on what needs to happen. It's the political climate that needs to support these values, and that's what we're trying to do. We're just parents. We're not going to write the report on exactly how kids should learn. We just want to make sure it happens.
Kalimah, I'm going to give you the last 30 seconds. What do you say to those other parents that maybe are not as passionate or not as involved and say, this is really not my problem. I've got to go work out. I've got to go play tennis. I've got other things to do.
These are our children, and right now we have to prove that we're worthy of this educational system that we want. There's time to fix it. There's huge problems, but we have the time to fix it if we step up. Everyone shows up at the school board meeting after the school has been closed, after the problem has gotten so bad that it's too late to fix it. Right now, we're here. Please join us. We can make these changes that need to happen.
Thank you very much, ladies. It's great to have such passionate moms. Mom power.
Yes.
Thank you so much. We'll be right back.